Good morning. Happy Friday. I realize some of my videos are a little too low. I don't know if it's the distance of my mic, but hopefully you guys could hear me. I was reposting some of the lives and I was like, I could barely hear myself, so I don't know if I just speak very soft or I'm not doing something right on my mic. So I will work on that. I posted chapter 5 of John and chapter 7. The reason why they're out of order is the way that they're stored on my phone. I'm having trouble with my phone's full. My phone is full and it's just telling me, oh, you can't download, you can't edit. So I'm working on that. But as far as the lives going on YouTube, they've been pretty good. I think I have John 1 through 8 on my YouTube page. The one we did yesterday, because of the live going out, it's in 2 parts, but they're not too long. I made those a little shorter. I didn't do a full hour video. But thank you guys that are subscribed to my YouTube and that are watching. It's so cool to see. I'm like, oh, somebody watched the live, and it's just exciting for me. I like it. And I want to start posting just the single chapters of John, and I don't think I'm going to do it on YouTube just because the way it's working out right now, but I will look into the future on my next book. That way I don't have to do too much. I might repost some of the TikToks to the lives, but they have the watermark, so it kind of looks, I don't like when it has a watermark, but the lives will be posted on my page. That's a funny question. I don't know. I think I normally cover my whole face, but that's just because I think you're only supposed to cover your eyes, but I normally cover my whole face. Today I'll be reading John chapter 9 and 10. What's that mean? I don't know. I guess I tend to do that. Or like scary movies, when we cover our eyes, I end up covering my whole face. Thanks for the follow. I had a hard time waking up again. I don't know if it's I'm just staying up too late, but I woke up and I took my dog out. Then I was going to start my live and I saw that I only had like 30% battery. So I was like, oh, now I have to wait to do the live. And then I spilled my coffee and I was like, okay, what's going on? Today we have a worship circle at my church, and I was like, maybe it's that, but it was just so like crazy. I got to do some yard work today. I think we're going to go to like IKEA. Yesterday it was fun. We went to Ross and went to like a thrift store. I like going to thrift stores. Well, I like going to certain thrift stores. I don't go to all thrift stores, but I really like one of these thrift stores that I go to. I think too, sometimes you go to thrift stores and you don't really know who they're supporting, but the one I go to, it goes to like a school, and then I forgot the other things. They have it like where their donations go to. So I'll go ahead and start. I'm like, I don't want to touch my phone too much because that's how it turned off last time. Like, it kicked me out live and wouldn't get me back in. So John chapter 9. Now as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. And he said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which is translated sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. Therefore the neighbors and those who previously had seen that he was blind said, "Is not this he who sat and begged?" Some said, "This is he." Others said, "He is like him." He said, "I am he." Therefore they said to him, "How were your eyes open?" He answered and said, "A man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes, and said to me, 'Go to the pool of Siloam and wash.' So I went and washed and received sight." Then he said, "Where is he?" He said, "I do not know." They brought him who formerly was blind to the Pharisees. Now it was a Sabbath when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes. And the Pharisees also asked him again how he had received his sight. He said, "He put clay on my eyes and washed, and I see." Therefore some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God, because he does not keep the Sabbath." Others say, "How can a man who is a sinner do such signs?" And there was a division among them. They said to the blind man again, "What do you say about him, because he opened your eyes?" He said, "He is a prophet." But the Jews did not believe concerning him they had been blind and received his sight, that he had been blind and received his sight, until they called the parents of him who had received his sight. And they asked them, saying, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But by what means he now sees, we do not know, or who opened his eyes, we do not know. He is of age. Ask him. He will speak for himself." His parents said these things because they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already that if anyone confessed that he was Christ, he would put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." So they again called the man who was blind and said to him, "Give God the glory. We know that this man is a sinner." He answered and said, "Whether he is a sinner or not, I do not know. One thing I know, that though I was blind, now I see." Then they said to him again, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" Then they reviled him and said, "You are his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. We know that God spoke to Moses. As for this fellow, we do not know where he is from." The man answered and said to them, "Why is this a marvelous thing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he has opened my eyes? Now we know that God does not hear sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, he hears him. Since the world began, it has been unheard of that anyone opened the eyes of one who was born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." They answered and said to him, "You were completely born in sins and are teaching us." And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and when he had found him, he said to him, "Do you believe in the Son of God?" He answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him?" And Jesus said to him, "You have both seen him, and it is he who is talking with you." Then he said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshipped him. And Jesus said, "For judgment I have come into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may be made blind." Then some of the Pharisees who were with him heard these words and said to him, "Are we blind also?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you say we see, therefore your sin remains." It's such a... These little councils that they do when it's, either they're questioning Jesus or they're questioning this blind man. I don't want to say, I think like they're catty. There's this like you can hear the tension. You can hear, like I love when he said, do you also want to become his disciples? Like, he's like, I already told you. I told you what happens. Like, how many times do you want me to tell you? I think it's so crazy. Here's a note here in my Bible. It talks about blindness. It says, blindness was common in Jesus' day, often resulting from a birth defect, infection, leprosy, cataracts, or advanced age. The Jews associated blindness and suffering in general with sin. The man might have sinned while still in his mother's womb. Some Jews believed in prenatal sin. The man in his pre-existent state, an idea that emerged from the Greek philosopher Plato about 427 to 327 BC, might have sinned before his conception. The blind man's parents might have sinned and brought the affliction of blindness upon their son. Jews believe the sins of the parents could cause suffering for the child. Sorry. This healing was one of the two healings in which Jesus used saliva. No medicinal value was associated with the Pool of Siloam, a water supply located just inside the southeastern city wall. The pool was an engineering feat for that day created by the construction of the Hezekiah's Tunnel, which diverted waters from Siloam to Gihon Spring. Dug through solid rock, this 583-yard tunnel of Hezekiah provided water diverted into the city from the Kidron Valley outside the city wall. In the event of an enemy siege, the Siloam pool was measured 20 by 30 feet and is still used as a source of water. I actually got to go to the Pool of Siloam. Not the Pool of Siloam. Maybe I went there too, but I went to Hezekiah's Tunnel, and it's a pretty windy tunnel, and I think the way they made it, they actually had to dig on one side and dig on the other side, and I think they met in the middle, and it was pretty cool to see just the size of it. Some part of the tunnel was super high. The water gets really high. I think we had it I'm kind of short, but it's from my knees to my waist. I think that was the water level at times, but depending on I guess it was the Pool of Siloam, depending on the level of the water there, that's probably what changed the water level in the Hezekiah Tunnel. But it's pretty trippy. It's kind of scary because you're literally in a cave tunnel. Sometimes you have to crouch down and go lower, and it's not one full tunnel. It's the ceiling comes down, and it's interesting. It's just it's a really cool experience. And I think now I saw something where they discovered, I don't know if they discovered a different entrance to the tunnel, but I remember seeing something about they found something new regarding the Hezekiah's Tunnel. You guys should look it up. Yeah, I saw it. I'm not sure if it was an Israel news, but it's cool. A debate occurred when the Pharisees accused Jesus of not keeping the Sabbath. Jesus had made clay, and they considered that work forbidden on the Sabbath. Jesus healed the blind man, and any non-life-threatening medical attention was not allowed on the Sabbath. Jesus had put saliva on the man's eyes in practice not allowed on the Sabbath. Therefore, the Pharisees thought Jesus could not have come from God, but others, astounded and impressed by Jesus' miracles, could not consider Jesus a sinner. I think it's so interesting that they started looking. I think they started looking on the Sabbath, oh, he's going to do it again. He's going to do it again on the Sabbath. And instead of being thankful, or instead of being grateful, they were just so mad that he went against everything that they thought to be true. And he went against the Sabbath. And that was a big thing for them. Like, they literally, like, if you go to a hotel, you stay at a hotel, they have a Shabbat elevator. So on the Sabbath, instead, like, you can't press a button. I don't even know how you could eat and pick up a fork. I don't understand. You can't cook. But you, like, they don't even allow you to press the button. Like, the Shabbat elevator just goes little, like, every floor. And so they kept warning us, don't go in the Shabbat elevator because you will take a while to get to the ground floor. So, but yeah, it's made for, like, the Sabbath. But they were very, very gun-ho. Like, you can't do anything on the Sabbath. And it became an issue for them over a person's healing. And Jesus at one point, I think, mentions, like, oh, if your ox, I think it's ox or lamb, falls in a pit, like, wouldn't you take it out? Like, that's doing work too, but you would take it out. You would take it out. I'll go ahead and continue in John chapter 10. Most assuredly I say to you that he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the doorkeeper opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he brings out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him. For they know his voice, yet they will by no means follow a stranger, but will flee from him, for they do not know the voice of strangers. Jesus used this illustration, but they did not understand the things which he spoke to them. Then Jesus said to them again, Most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep, and whoever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. But a hireling, he who is not the shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming, and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf catches the sheep and scatters them. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known by my own. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. Therefore my Father loves me, because I lay down my life, that I may take it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This command I received from my Father. Therefore there was a division again among the Jews because of these things, and many of them said, He has a demon and is mad. Why do you listen to him? Others said, These are not the words of one who has a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? Now it was the feast of dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then the Jews surrounded him and said to him, How long do you keep us in doubt? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly. Jesus answered them, I told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But you do not believe, because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall anyone snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one. Then the Jews took up stones again to stone him. Jesus answered them, Many good works I have shown you from my Father. For which of those works do you stone me? The Jews answered him, saying, For a good work we do not stone you, but for blasphemy, and because you, being a man, make yourself God. Jesus answered them, Is it not written in your law, I said you are gods? If he calls them gods, to whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken, do you say of him whom the Father sanctified and sent in the world, You are blaspheming, because I said I am the Son of God? If I do not do the works of my Father, do not believe me. But if I do, though you do not believe me, believe the works, that you may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. Therefore they sought again to seize him, but he escaped out of their hand. And he went away again beyond the Jordan, to the place where John was baptizing at first, and there he stayed. Then many came to him and said, John performed no sign, but all things that John spoke about this man were true. And many believed in him there. I like the example of the Good Shepherd, because I look at like the hirelings, and sometimes we have pastors that, if you want to call them pastors, that don't really care about their church, and they care more about their reputation, their material things. They care more about their desires, maybe even how people perceive them. But once the enemy comes, they flee. They flee to, like, you've got moral failure, you've got money, you've got, stealing, you've got all these different things that I would consider them to be like the hireling. Thank you for the roses. The hirelings that didn't really care. They were there for their own personal gain, and now they're gone, and they've left this group or this church, this fellowship, to doubt God, to doubt God's love, God's purpose in their lives. And when Jesus says he's the good shepherd, like, he's the one that we can follow, he's the one that will protect us. And that was just the image that I got, is a pastor that was in it for his own self-worth, was in it for his own interest, what that position would have gained him, and not dying to themselves, not putting themselves in a, not defending the sheep. That's what I think of. Because it says, the hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. And I liked in verse 16, it says, the other sheep I have which are not in the fold, them also must bring. And I believe that is the Gentiles. I'll read some of the commentary in my Bible, but I believe that's the Gentiles. We're like the other sheep. If you're not a Jew, you're a Gentile. And it's so precious what the Lord thinks about us, because Gentiles to Jews are nothing. They're not the promised people. They're kind of just, they're not part of like the chosen group. But the idea that Jesus is now reaching into the Gentile world, and there were Gentiles that became Jews, there were Gentiles that were in, whether they were bondservants or that sort of thing, they were, or even, I think you have like, I think it's Rahab. You have some that are like not Ruth, you have Moabites, you have other people that the Lord allowed in. So it wasn't that no Gentiles could be in there, but they were not seen the same as Jews. It says, sheep provided food, milk, and clothing. The shepherd feeds them, led them to water, guarded them lest they wander off and get lost, protect them from predators, carried them when they were sick or weak, and constantly cared for them. The job of shepherding was a tiring, dangerous one. Often the shepherd spent years with a particular herd of sheep and called each sheep by its own descriptive name. The sheep knew and followed the voice of their shepherd, but they would not respond to a stranger's voice. The shepherd went before them and made sure the path was safe for the sheep. The door referred to the entrance of the sheepfold. Jesus described him as a good shepherd. Jesus described himself as a good shepherd, a metaphor the people of his day would understand clearly. I think there was a message that it was on Psalm 23 that I heard, and it always kind of stays with me because sheep are so dumb. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen have you ever seen the video where I think this guy takes a sheep out, I think it's a sheep, out of like a little ditch, and then he takes him out, and instantly when he takes him out, the sheep jumps right back into the ditch, and he's like upside down, and like it's just the funniest thing. But that's how sheep are. Like it's just so crazy. It's just, that's how we are. How many times do we go and get in the same sticky situation? We don't learn our lesson, and the Lord allows us to go through it again and again and again, and prayerfully He's there with us to guide us. I love that He gives us that opportunity to learn it again and again and again, and that opportunity to do it right. But that's what I thought of right now. The other sheep was a reference to the Gentiles. Oh, yes. Okay. This fold was a reference to Judaism. Jesus anticipated the mission to the Gentiles after his death and resurrection. The Gentiles, as well as the believing Jews, would share an intimate relationship with him. And I'm very thankful for that, because we were not his chosen people. Though he knows us, and he knows the future, he knows those that are his, and those that will reject him. It doesn't mean we just leave it to chance. You know, we need to keep pressing on and going forward, because we do have a choice. He just happens to know the choice that we're going to make, because he's outside of time. And a lot of people, it's like, well, I'm not destined this, or maybe it's not part of my destiny, or it's like predestined. And it's like, well, he just knows. He knows what's going to happen, and we just have to stay faithful. We have to cling to him and understand him so much more, and reach out to him, and to finish well. On Wednesday, they talked about finishing well and having that well done, good and faithful servant. Like, our past is our past. You know, we do so many dumb things. Yesterday at the Bible study, they were talking about condemnation versus conviction, and to remember that God doesn't condemn us. You know, we tend to condemn ourselves, or Satan condemns us, but he doesn't condemn us. He gives us conviction, and to understand our wrong. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, where we don't necessarily receive his forgiveness because we feel like we don't deserve it. We feel like we've done too much, we've gone too far, we haven't lived a perfect life. But he knows that. He knows that he still receives us. He still draws us close to him. He still protects us and provides for us, even if we're in the wrong. He's done that. He's allowed that mercy and that grace. Now, we can't take advantage of that, because it doesn't necessarily last when you're in sin. I don't think that we're going to get this continual covering if we reject what God has to say. He is going to reach out for us. He's going to seek out for us. But if we want to live in our sin, and we want to stay in our sin, his voice is going to get quieter and quieter, and he's going to give us the opportunity to choose to be in our sin, or to choose to repent from our sin. And that's a scary place to be. If you're in a place where you're no longer getting conviction and you are okay with your sin, you get blinded by the Lord's, you go deaf to the Lord's voice. And that's a very sad place to be. I've been taking ASL. At my church, we have an ASL class. And it's a really fast-paced class, and it's just to kind of give us a good introduction. We learn about deaf culture and that sort of thing. But sometimes in class, we have this socialized portion. So we're talking to each other, and we talk with our hands. And sometimes it feels very helpless. I don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to, I don't understand certain things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine being in a world where I don't understand. I can't communicate. And you have this helpless feeling. And it's a silent world. It can be lonely. It can be, especially for those because I don't think everybody learns sign. A lot of times they try to teach them to read lips. A lot of the family members don't learn sign. I think they said 25% learn sign of the parents or the family members. There is a artist named, I think it's Holvey. His sister was deaf, and he made a song about it saying I'm sorry. His sister's name was Grace. I'm sorry, Grace, that I didn't learn. And his eyes were open when he went to a deaf event, and he was the one that didn't understand. He didn't know what they were saying. He couldn't communicate, and he understood, wow, that's what my sister felt all these years. And to be in that state of life with God would be very difficult, where God doesn't listen to you, where God does not speak to you, is a dark place. When you reject God and you reject what he has and what he says, it's a dark place. It's a lonely, lonely place. And you can only go so long thinking that you are in the right, thinking that he's still there, but you're blinded by your sin. You become deaf to his voice and blind to what you're actually doing. I think the word is dumb. You become dumb because you're blind and you're deaf. And it is in this time and age, when we see all the natural disasters, hurricanes, we're having a lot of earthquakes that it's really often. I have not seen it like that, at least in my area. We've had a lot of earthquakes. Of course, we get the fires. It feels so close to the end. It feels so close to, Jesus coming back and taking his church, and then the start of the tribulation. You don't want to get caught without him, because it's you read about the lake of fire. It's a dark, anguish, burning, eternal burning. It's not, oh yeah, we're gonna party in hell. A lot of people say that, oh yeah, we'll do this and that, and because that's what sin is here. Sin allows that kind of a party mindset, or that fulfilling all your desires here. But that's not how hell's going to be. Hell is going to be a payment of anguish and devastation. It's going to be an unquenchable thirst. And when you want to choose to be away from God, you're going to be in the farthest part where the Lord is not going to be. The Lord's not going to be around. He's not going to be in communion because of a choice. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm being punished. No, like, you get to choose. And it just, you don't like the options. A lot of people are like, it's not fair, all this stuff. It's like, no, God doesn't make you. God doesn't make you choose him. But the options are there. And we need to seek him, and we need to not be listening to the lies. Like they said, like, when it talks about the enemy in the last chapter, it said that he in this chapter, in chapter 10, it says, the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. And that's what Satan is doing. He's trying to destroy the works that the Lord has done. He's trying to steal that salvation from you, because he can't take away your salvation, but he can give you options and help you to see a different point of view that's skewed. And he lies, and he gives verses to kind of help you understand his lie. Just like with Eve, he convinced her to disobey God, because he gives half truths. But I'm going to go ahead and stop there. Thank you guys for joining. I will be posting these lives, and I do like a unedited live on YouTube, and I'm going to try to separate the chapters on TikTok so I can do like a playlist. So far I only have 2 chapters on there, but only because I didn't want to put them all at the same time. So I have a couple more in my drafts, and then I'll put these ones and hopefully go back and do the first couple chapters of John. I'm just having a little trouble because I can't edit it because it's an hour long. So I think I'm going to try to keep my lives a little shorter than an hour, only because then I can update the or like edit the videos. But yeah, for some reason it's like 1 hour and 5 minutes, and it's like, oh, we can't do anything with this video because it's over an hour. I'm like, oh no. So I'm trying to get that one too. So I hope you guys have a blessed day. Thank you for joining.